Our next guest is a vocalist, songwriter, and producer from Brooklyn. You can find her on Instagram at Kate Gratson. That's KateGratson. Please welcome Kate. Yay.
Hey, welcome on, welcome on.
Hello,
What's your last
hello.
name?
Gratson.
Okay, so I
Gratson,
said it
okay,
right.
perfect.
Yeah, you said it right.
Okay, cool.
Nice, nice.
I get
That's okay.
Gratson. That's about it.
Nice.
That's kind of a cool name for like if you have a kid.
What, like as a first
Like,
name?
hey, great son.
Oh,
Like yours.
There are Graysons that exist. That's
Yeah.
similar. But yeah. How
Anyway,
you guys
so
doing?
we're doing fine,
we could be better, I guess.
We could be better.
After
Today's a
some
weird
some
day.
argument we had.
Yeah.
Let's not even get into.
Yeah,
it.
some
Has
Anyway,
nothing to do with the microphones, right?
nothing.
No, nothing at
nothing to
all.
do with the
Nothing at all.
the
Nothing to do
fucking
with this.
screen thing
Yeah.
that I don't have, but he does. Nothing to
Yeah,
do with that.
nothing at all. Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, tell us, how's your how's your, week been? Or like, have you been doing anything musical or just like chilling, relaxing? Like, tell us, how's the past week or so been for you?
The past week has been busy. I traveled upstate to collaborate with a dancer,
fancy.
Oh, nice.
who choreographed a piece to go along with my upcoming release.
Mhm.
Um, so I got back, when did I get back? 2 days ago, and it's just kind of been like trying to readjust, go through all the footage, and also work on new music at the same time. So
Nice,
it's been
nice.
a little hectic. Yeah.
Mhm.
Which is
Gotcha.
good. It
Nice.
like hasn't felt hectic for a long time.
So like, what's up with that like collaboration? Like, was it something that person reached out to you, or did you reach out to that person, or like, because like that's like very
Um,
interesting.
yeah, so I reached out to her. We collaborated a few years back. We went to the same university, where I wrote a song, and there was a few other dancers involved. But anyways, I reached out to her, and I think, or maybe mid-October, and I was kind of just like, hey, I have this song, and I think um, it would be amazing if you could choreograph and perform a dance to it, because it's a really slow paced song.
Mhm.
And music videos, I mean, traditional music videos are kind of really difficult to film and put together,
Right.
at this point during quarantine. So I was like, it would just be you. I could come up and film it, and yeah, so I went upstate to her Thursday. We're in December now, so Thursday through Saturday, and we kind of like worked through the stuff and filmed it, and then
Mhm.
came back home to Brooklyn.
Cool.
So
Awesome.
What do you think is
yeah.
more important for like a musician to collaborate with other musicians or just with other artists from like different fields?
I think in the beginning it's probably um, more beneficial to collaborate with other musicians when you're really honing in on your sound, or even just creating the music. But I think once you've kind of developed whatever your sound is, or the song, if we're talking really like on one particular small thing, like I think it's then good to get outside that bubble of fellow musicians and collaborate with people that kind of approach their art in a different way.
Mhm.
um, whether that's working with a photographer or working with a dancer, they come up with ideas that you would never come up with, because a lot of the time you're really insulated as a songwriter or as a producer, someone that works from home, that works alone. um, and you can kind of get into the same rotation of okay, get to the piano, okay, write some lyrics, okay, you know what I mean.
Mhm.
But their approach can kind of like turn a song on its head, and you go, oh, I wrote these lyrics, but the way that you're coming up with the dance, it has a very different meaning. So I think probably musicians first, and then later on it's really good to branch out, because you need to collaborate, you need like other people's input, I think.
Right. I mean, I guess it doesn't make much sense to collaborate with another artist if you're still not sure with like what your sound is, right? And you wouldn't get to
Right.
that point until you've
And you
collaborated
want to
with
be
other people.
sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't ever want to like look back and go, oh, I listened to that producer and I really didn't, have kind of a good idea of what I was, looking for. So, yeah.
How's
Nice.
that journey been for you? Like trying to find your sound?
Um, it's been interesting. You think that you write something and you're like, this is it. Like this is me. And then a year later you write something else and it's a completely different sound, but it feels just as authentic. So I'm of the mindset that, you know, artists every few years can kind of reinvent themselves, and that's totally okay. Um, in fact, I think it's probably a healthy thing that your sound is always evolving. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I
Speaking of
forgot the question.
no, no, no problem. No, no. Speaking of which, because mentioning that, that's like very interesting thing. Because with fans and stuff like that, there will like always be a select group of people who will like complain. Those type of people that will like always be a bit like dissatisfied with 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 whatever a certain artist do, even though they claim to be fans. And like,
Mhm,
yeah, so like, I feel like obviously it is important for change as a person, as a artist and stuff like that. But all this to say, why do you think certain fans and stuff like that are resistant to change in a certain artist's creative output? Or like, do you have any
mhm,
kind of like experience with that, with kind of like people saying, yeah, I liked your like older sound better, or like anything like that? Or like, do you have any sort of like insight into why do you think certain people react that way? Certain people are resistant to change from their like favorite artists catalog, or in their
mhm.
favorite artists catalog.
Right. I think that's a really good question. I think it all has to, not all of it, but a lot of it has to do with maybe the memories that you personally had surrounding the time of when you listened to, that particular artist's, what you might call their seminal work. I don't know. I'm trying to think of someone that, who's changed a lot over time. Maybe someone like Taylor Swift, like
Mm-hmm.
her early stuff when I was like in middle school. Um, like Love Story and all those um songs, like that was I listened to those at like, a time when it was probably the right time to hear that stuff. And now when I listen to her new music, I'm not as, attached to it in any
Right.
way. And I look back and I go, oh, I wish, she still had that sound. But it's really more for me. It's more for coming from not a selfish point, but you know, it's because I have those amazing memories, dancing around, at my friend's place to those songs, as opposed to, her new more like folk kind of sound where I don't necessarily identify it at this point in my life. And I don't think I would identify with, if she stuck with the sound that she was creating like 10 years ago either. So, um yeah, I think it's really the memories that you create around that body of work from the artist that, you know, makes you a little bit, you know, I wouldn't say selfish, but kind of. You don't want them to change because it feels good.
For
Yeah.
sure. I mean, it's the nostalgia, I guess, that you get when you listen to like an artist. Um,
Hmm.
I read this thing where like I think like people's like musical taste doesn't evolve after like the age of like 16 or something.
Mm. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Trying to
like
think
Is
what
it
I was
six? I
listening to
thought
when
it
I was
was like,
16.
or
I think I know what you're
15,
talking about. Like, I thought it was
13,
maybe, I'm not sure,
like
but
real young. Like you just stops like
I don't
developing,
know. I
something like
mean,
that. I don't
I
know.
mean,
Mm.
are there like any like artists, or like any like genres that you couldn't listen to back in like high school, but that you're kind of like warming up to now?
Hmm.
Let's test that theory, David.
Yeah,
That's a
so
good question. Things that I wasn't interested in. You know what? It's it's branched out a little bit, but I would say that it's kind of been on the same path.
Yeah.
checkmate.
Yeah. I mean, but like
No, I
for
mean,
you,
obviously,
David,
obviously
during
it's not for
like
anybody. Well, the thing was, like,
yeah,
I didn't really listen to that many like different genres of music, so I didn't know
he was
like
a pop punk kid.
what I liked and what I didn't like,
See,
right?
pop punk never liked, still don't like.
See, there you go. You just didn't hear it when you
But you
were
know what?
13. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but
When
no,
I
yeah, I
was
mean,
a,
yeah.
oh, sorry.
No, no,
No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
When I was a kid, I was studying classical music. So when I heard jazz, kids playing jazz, I hated it. I was just
Uh,
like, why are they just, improvising, coming up with these like
how
silly,
dare
like,
they express
how
themselves
dare they try and like come up
off
with
the
something
cuff?
original?
Yes.
Yeah.
How dare they be original?
You used to be,
Um,
are you still a cellist or no?
Not really these days. I still
Mm,
I still have my cello here, but I don't find that I have the time to pick it up too
mm,
frequently anymore.
mm.
But
Were,
it's definitely the reason that I'm the way I am, I
Hmm.
think.
mm. Were you like
Is the
ever a
cello
fan
one of those
of?
big boys,
Yeah,
like
Mm-hmm.
I
the
guess.
super tall guys?
No, it's
Mm-mm.
like
Like
In
smaller
between.
than the upright
in
bass?
between. It's
Oh,
smaller
Hmm.
than upright bass, but
but
bigger
like
than a
if like
violin.
you had to carry that around in high school, you'd be like
It's a
pushed
lot.
around.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
It
it would
was
be
a lot.
annoying. Yeah,
yeah.
but
Hmm.
like speaking of which, like the only real pop. I mean, because I guess were you a fan of One Republic back in the day? Because they were like the only mainstream band that had like a dedicated cellist. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, cellist.
Cellist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cellist at the time.
No, I wasn't really I was like a weird kid. I didn't really listen to pop music until I was like much older, like probably
Mm.
around like middle school.
Oh, okay,
So I
yeah,
feel like I was late to the game.
yeah.
Um, and then by high school, I was listening to kind of like alternative like
Mm.
pop stuff.
Mhm.
So no, I wasn't listening to One Republic,
No,
but I
no,
do
that's
respect.
okay. No, that's okay. I just thought that maybe because as like a cellist, I feel like One Republic, it's just like
Like,
career.
hey, I
That's where you
have that
peak.
instrument.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
exactly. Yeah, but
Right.
like I don't think they like. No, I think like the cellist was actually kind of like a core member too. Was like very,
Hmm.
which is like very like interesting. But
There were there was that like huge a cappella group too, um, that had a cellist that also did like, I think like probably the bass part that
yeah,
was like kind of popular when maybe we were in high school.
yeah. I
Now I
think I know
can't
what you're
think of who
talking
they
about, but I
are.
totally forgot their name. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have
yeah,
no idea.
yeah.
Honestly.
No, but like speaking of jazz specifically, talking about how you like hated jazz and stuff like that. I was like watching this like video about why certain people are resisted to like certain types of genre, and it's just like theory basically, but it's basically about what people look for in music, and he basically
Hmm.
explained that like either people like focus on like the rhythmic aspect, the harmonic aspect, or
Hmm.
the melodic aspect. So like depending on like which three you prefer, there are like certain genres that naturally don't really fit into that.
That's interesting.
So like
Yeah.
yeah, so like but but then again, but the whole point of his video was like, yeah, that might be the case, but you're being stupid and ignorant if you don't choose to kind of like expand your palette
Uh-huh.
beyond kind of like your like current sensibilities, because he was like
Where you
saying that
naturally,
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
yeah, because he was like saying, yeah, you could like learn to like listen and to like appreciate a certain aspect of music that you haven't really recognized
Mm.
until now. So I'm like a firm
Hmm.
believer in that. And I don't know, because how did you gain your like appreciation for jazz and stuff like that? Because it says
Hmm.
here on your bio that yeah, now your music incorporates everything from like electronic, jazz, R&B
Yeah. What's with
influences.
all
So
that
like
flip
yeah.
flopping?
Mm. I think, well, I definitely I'd love to read the article that you were talking about,
Mhm.
because I think it was probably because of picking up the cello from such a young age that I was always drawn to melodies, just like
Mhm.
Mm.
single line melodies when I listen to a song on the radio. I'm not even listening to the words, honestly. I'm
Yeah,
listening
yeah.
to the melody. Like I, I don't know most words in most songs, I'm
I don't know
just
words.
I don't it's not at all like a concern of mine
Mhm.
when I'm listening to music. When I'm writing music, of course it is. I
Mhm.
want to tell a story that makes sense, and the words are important, but I have to say when I'm just enjoying music, it's all about the harmonic and melodic parts.
Mhm.
And I think that was due to studying the cello, which is, you know, you listen to, I mean, you can write all sorts of music for it, but it's usually like a single melodic line
Mhm.
instrument. Um, and that's what I would probably date it back to, but
Mhm.
I didn't enjoy jazz until I think I was maybe very late middle school, early high school, when I was getting exposed to it more and more. At during I went to LaGuardia High School, so there were a lot of
Nice.
jazz heads there. And then also I went to like some music summer camps where they had some pretty good jazz programs, and I just
Mhm.
finally like just opened myself up to it,
Mhm.
because up until that point when I was, practicing in my bedroom, like with the cello, it was like you were saying, what do you look for in music? Well, I was looking for perfection,
Mhm.
and I wasn't really looking to be an artist that had my own um, take on
Mm.
the pieces.
Mhm.
Um, so I think when I really opened up and heard jazz, and I would say that again, like late middle school, early high school, I was kind of just like, wow, this is like a totally different approach
Mhm.
to music, and it's at that point seemed so much more complicated and
Mhm.
complex. Um, and that was like a big turning point. So I kind of spent high school learning the jazz standards and
Like
just
on like on cello.
immersing myself. No, at that point
Okay, that'd been
I
really
was
cool.
singing.
Oh, singing, yeah. I mean, have you ever tried kind of like trying to like, I don't know, do the jazz
Is that not a thing?
like on cello? I
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen it, but I'm like thinking it would be like so cool watching like a
People have
cellist
people have
playing
tried.
jazz. Yeah,
It's certainly
and
possible.
and all have failed.
I know.
Yeah.
People have tried. I don't know why when you think about it, there's not that many string instruments in, I'm talking like bowed string
Yeah, bold.
instruments when
Yeah.
you think of like a jazz combo or anything.
Mhm.
Um, but there's no reason why it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But I never tried it. It's it's the for me there was a bit of a loss in translation, or I never really, like I said, tried
Mhm.
to improvise on the cello. It's a bit, you can kind of flub it with your voice,
Mhm.
um, but actually going from in the moment of like thinking of a melody, and then translating that to your fingers and having all the notes that you're
Mhm.
hearing and everything is a really difficult
Yeah. No, definitely.
thing to master. And it's,
Yeah.
you can kind of, in the beginning you can get away with it on your voice, and then once you really get into it, it's so much more complicated than it
Mhm.
seems.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so like I mean it seems like a lot of your like musical journey obviously started when you were like young, and obviously
Hmm.
LaGuardia is like one of like the seven specialized schools like in the city. Is it like one of like
It
the
is a specialized
yeah,
schools. I
yeah,
don't know how
yeah.
Mhm.
many there are.
I think there's like
It's
seven
like
of them.
It's gotta be more.
it's
Like
not
11,
the
12.
No, but it's like the
it,
like the seven. Is it seven or 12? Like Brooklyn Tech,
I
LaGuardia,
don't know
Stuyvesant.
if it's in the
Stuyvesant.
same I don't know if it's in the
I think this is
same
a
bubble as
performance.
those, because you don't,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
okay.
a specialized
Because like
performance
it's like
school.
what
It's different
Oh,
Stan and
tests.
like
okay.
Frank Sinatra and
Yeah.
what else?
Oh, okay. But like anyway, so like yeah, what was kind of like the high school experience for you being in such
Yeah, it's gotta be
a quote
tough.
unquote elite, type of like place for music?
Uh-huh. It was, looking back, I mean, it was a wild experience. Um, I went there for the cello, so it's kind of broken up, divided into different programs. There's like a theater program, instrumental, which is where I was, a
Mhm.
vocal program, theater tech. So I was there. I went in for the cello, and then over those 4 years, I kind of morphed into like a hybrid, because I was doing a lot of singing and songwriting stuff. But it was a wild time. I mean, the days at school were really long. You were there until like 4 p.m., start at 8 a.m. You're there till like 4 because you're taking these extra, for me, instrumental classes in addition to your normal, academics.
Mhm.
And then a lot of the time you're doing an after school thing too, whether you're in, a musical theater production or in an opera. For me, I was playing in the pit for some things
Ooh,
with the
nice.
cello. So it was definitely an exhausting 4 years because you're traveling. I came from South Brooklyn, taking the train all the way up to 67th Street, Lincoln Center area. Definitely, I can't. Thinking back, I'm like, how did we all have the energy to do all that? But obviously, it happened at the right time.
Yeah.
It was fun. There were plenty of classes where I was just like, why do I have to take this? Like, I know this, or like, things when you're young just sometimes seem like a waste of time. Kind of like, that like algebra class. You're like, why do I ever have to take algebra? Like,
Yeah.
like it's such a waste of time. And then like
Yeah.
10 years later, you're like, what is 10 times 5? Okay, yeah. Like, same thing with the music classes. And, they certainly expected a lot from everyone.
Mhm.
And if they thought you were really good, I think they expected even more from, you to put more into the school.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I mean, a lot of really talented kids went there,
Yeah.
and a lot of kids that just enjoyed, doing whatever they were doing, but weren't looking to have a career in that,
Mhm.
field. So it was
Do,
definitely a mix.
do you keep in touch with any of them at all? Like,
Yeah,
have you
yeah,
seen like
We
how
just want
for
more
sure.
people
their
to come on the
growth?
podcast.
I guess their growth.
Yeah, I mean, there were some talented theater kids that are, really making it now. But in terms of staying in contact with like the music majors, I do. Especially when I moved back here after college, I kind of was able to reconnect. And even now, like there's a lot of instrumentalists that are in the city who were performing, pre-COVID, and who are now like in New York City trying to get work. So we're all trying to like collaborate and work
Nice.
together. And there's definitely a nice community feel of everyone
Yeah.
that went there.
Yeah.
In high school, it kind of felt maybe a little bit competitive in a good way. Like you're always trying to like push each other.
Right.
And now it just feels like a nice, like helpful community
Nice.
of everyone trying to just make it in whatever they're trying to do.
Right.
So
Nice.
yeah.
Well, like, do you want to take this time to kind of like listen to like your latest single? Like we
Sure.
listen to it, actually talk about it after. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, now I'm like very interested to see what you've been cooking up. So
Yeah.
What's cooking?
yeah. So like, what's the name of the single?
Clockwork.
Oh,
Mhm.
well, like
Yeah, so
David, there's a whole
this
method to it. We're supposed to introduce it and
Oh, I
just
thought we were supposed to be
I
like,
am
oh, we know.
sorry.
Like we
I'm
know.
sorry. Yeah. So what's
what's
yeah? So
you
like yeah.
Yeah.
So
Work clock.
yeah. So what's the name of the new single?
So the new single is called Clockwork,
Mm-hmm.
and it's I would say by far my slowest song that I've released so far, and it's also the last single off my upcoming EP,
Okay.
which is called The Girl You Knew, and it's probably my favorite song. It's a song that I'll sing and I always cry when I'm singing it,
Wow.
always if I'm in it,
You want
for
to sing
sure. Probably not.
it now?
But yeah, I wrote it probably started it 2 years ago now, recorded it a year ago, and then quarantine. So everything slowed down in terms of the release, but here we are, January 2021.
Awesome. Finally. Cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's take a listen to it and then we could talk about it after. So
And I can't wait to get a hold of your lips. And I can't wait to taste on your sweet kiss. And
So, hey guys, welcome back to this episode of Sounds Like NYC, and we've just taken a listen at Clockwork. And yeah, do you want to like kind of like talk about the significance of the song to you, how it came about being produced, written, whatever, just like the whole process behind it, or yeah, just like
Yeah,
Yeah,
what were you
sure.
thinking?
yeah,
What was I
give us
thinking?
all of it.
The knowledge,
So,
the hacks.
this was probably about 2 years ago, so maybe 2018 when I started the concept, and I was kind of like going through this after college like bit of confusion of finding um, myself, figuring out a career, what do I want to do. So the idea behind Clockwork was um, it kind of has this like duality to it. It's about like it's about a relationship, but it's also very much about myself. So at the time I felt like people were, I was, home writing music, and I was looking at all my friends doing really amazing things, and I just felt like time was like passing me by, which is what the name, is derived from, this idea of like running out of time, kind of like the fear of like you're 85 years old and you're like, I never took those chances, I let like time and life pass me by. So it was a little bit of, that obviously as like a 23-year-old, you know um but it's also about, two people, and the idea that maybe you waited too long to tell the person how you felt, and it's too late. um but I think when I'm singing it, I'm really more thinking about myself. you know when I get to maybe 3/4 of the song and I'm like getting all teary-eyed, it's really more about, you know just the fear of missing out, kind of fear
Yeah,
of not trying hard enough, like the
yeah,
guilt of you could have done it, but you
Right.
really didn't take those extra steps
yeah,
because you were so scared of, you know
yeah,
failure.
yeah. No, I
So
definitely. Yeah, I definitely get that because as a guitarist myself, like it's so easy to compare yourself to other people, especially with like Instagram and stuff like that, and just like
mhm,
yeah, it's a whole thing. It's definitely tons of emotional complexes to be had with that sort of
mhm,
Yeah,
thing,
being an artist sounds
especially
tough.
yeah. But no, I definitely understand that. So like that's it's a big insecurity for probably most artists or most people,
mhm.
most like creative. So I definitely it's
Yeah,
I
and it's a guilt too, because
yeah,
you want to see everyone succeed, but you're
yeah,
also kind of like, when is it going to happen?
yeah.
What
When
do
it's
I
gonna
have to
happen to me?
do?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I definitely understand that 110%. So I feel like I
Mhm.
definitely appreciate you kind of like putting those feelings into musical form.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really
Thank
cool.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What do you like? What do you like? Did that shift your mindset at all to like try to like have as little regrets as possible? Like, what are you doing to combat that feeling?
Sorry, you said a little as little.
What?
Oh, I can you repeat the question?
Yeah, like what are you doing? I guess to combat that feeling of regret. Like, do you have any?
It's like an everyday battle. It's
Hmm.
me thinking I'm working hard enough, and then, I'm in bed and I'm like, oh, I could have like done this and this, and like gone that extra mile. So I think it's for me at this point and at this age, I feel best when I'm overworked and I feel like I'm really like pushing myself,
Mhm.
you know, not over the edge, but like pretty close to it.
Right.
Otherwise, I kind of get this like guilt of like, I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yep.
writing enough music.
For
I'm
sure.
not like, singing enough. I'm not.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an everyday thing. And then you have to sometimes, once in a while, you get the clarity of like, oh no, I am like working really hard
Hmm.
just because I'm not making, X amount of money or
Right.
working with that producer over there. It doesn't, mean that you're not working,
Hmm.
you know.
No, that's a
So
definitely. It's definitely important to
Yeah.
learn how to not be too hard on yourself
It's
and
kind of funny
definitely.
though,
right.
like that same like mindset that you have with yourself is sort of like what we have.
No, it's what you have,
Well,
and
yeah, but
like
like you I'm saying like I need you to keep me like, yo, bro, you need to chill.
yeah, no,
You know what
Mhm.
I'm
definitely,
saying?
yeah, yeah, because
Yeah.
like Yeah, because I definitely identify with you, Kate, because like basically I'm like in this, I have like the same mindset, and I've just been learning that like I don't know if it's copying out or just trying to be healthy, be like mentally healthy, but like, you know, not being okay with your place in the universe or anything like that, because like I feel like as long as you have ambition, even if you're not where you want to be, you know,
Hmm.
your ambition along with like your like hard work will like eventually pay off. And it's like so cliche to say, but like
Hmm.
obviously the more you work, the more you just like go for those opportunities, the closer you
For
are
sure. Yeah.
statistically, you know, to
More likely it is
finding
to
that,
happen. Yeah.
you know, getting that like lucky break or getting that one stroke of, you
Hmm.
know, just like a breakthrough. So yeah, I definitely appreciate,
Hmm.
or it's definitely good to hear that somebody else is going through the same thing as
I think
well.
yeah, I think that's definitely a common feeling between like artists just in general. Like you have these hopes and dreams to do something, but you're all the way over here. So like, how do I get over there? I have to like overwork myself to
Hmm.
get to that point, or
Hmm.
otherwise I'm gonna be 80 and just gonna be, you
Hmm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, yeah, you do have to work harder than most people
Hmm.
because you're literally trying to invent a job. You're trying to
Right.
invent a
Hmm.
brand.
Yeah.
You're like, it's not, you can't contact Taylor Swift and say, well, how did you do it? How did it work
Hmm.
for you? Because it's literally different for every single
For sure.
person.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's hard at times, but it's also very rewarding once, you know, you've hit those like milestones, whatever they are. They could be pretty small
Yeah.
or they could be like enormous.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Oh, sorry. But like speaking of
mm,
which, what would you consider your kind of like musical persona to be? Like what is like yeah, so what is your musical persona? Like is there like a certain overarching narrative that you're trying to like express through the span of your career? Or like, yeah,
mm,
what is your musical persona?
that's a good question. Well, for the EP that I'm releasing that Clockwork is on, it all kind of has that um overarching theme of self-reflection. I wrote the songs over the as soon as I graduated from college, it was kind of like those 2 years following where I like was trying to hone in on a sound and trying to like figure out what I was as an artist. And those songs all kind of reflect that transitional period. Um, but in terms of like lifetime of a career, I I mean it's good to think broadly like that. I would love to see myself as a songwriter and also as a producer in the future, kind of working going from project to project with different artists coming in later in the game and kind of just having tweaks and ideas. And I love going from, working with one person to like 2 days later working with another person on a completely different, sound. Or I feel like I do have so much knowledge coming from the classical end in terms of like harmonies and melodies and everything that music has to offer.
Mhm.
So I do think I kind of have this like library of knowledge, but I also love pop music and I love um, all that kind of stuff. So I do feel like I could kind of hopefully be a chameleon over the next how many years.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of having that like, you know, classical edge, like for you, like kind of like out of like all of your songs, what would you say is the most musically interesting or like yeah, musically interesting or like, you know, theory
Hmm.
wise,
Yeah.
something's like where something like out there is going on because I'm
Hmm.
pretty interested in that.
I mean, when I was in high school, I was definitely writing kind of like weirder music and music that crossed over with classical and jazz a lot more.
Ooh.
So the harmonic language of those songs was a little bit more complex than let's say the chords of the ones that I'm doing right now. I'm looking for to take the production to kind of like higher levels rather than like how weird can I make this chord progression? Okay, how can I jump this octave with my voice and like make
Right.
it, you know what I mean?
Right.
So Um, of the songs that I've released, I think my most recent release, Next to Me, was kind of like the most left of center.
Okay.
But again, the the chords are repetitive. It's kind of this crossover between like pop music and you know alternative R&B,
Right.
Mhm.
if you would, with
Yeah.
obviously like jazz influences. But I would say that one is probably the least palatable for like
Mhm.
the I don't know,
I
for
can't wait to listen to
whatever.
it. What's it called again?
That one is Next to Me. So
Next
that
to me.
one
Okay,
came
cool.
out like a month ago.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
we
Oh, it's the
spotlighted.
one.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
yeah. That one, the one that you guys did was like like a short acoustic version. But
Oh,
if
Yeah,
you
okay,
yeah,
listen
yeah.
yeah,
to
yeah.
the original production, which is the only song I've released that I've fully done the production on,
That's so cool.
it's
That's
kind of
awesome.
quirky. It's kind of
Yeah.
like a little glitchy and a little weird.
Hey, that's great though.
But
We need more innovation,
yeah,
more,
yeah,
more different is more good.
Yeah, but it's also like a
mhm,
catch-22 type of thing where like, it becomes so different that people might not like get it. Like, does that
mhm.
ever cross your mind? Like when you're
It
making
does.
music?
It does. It does. Certainly. I mean, when I was in college, that question would come up a lot, like what do you compose music for? Who do you compose it for? And my answer was always myself.
Right.
Like otherwise, I mean, how could you possibly um work the hours that you do and
Yeah.
work as hard as you
Yeah.
if you're trying to please someone else?
Hmm.
Now that now that I'm a few years older and there's money involved and like getting a place to sleep at night like is important.
Rent is
You do
important.
have to I wouldn't say sacrifice, but just like kind of shift
Compromise.
your yeah, a little bit of compromise and just like shifting kind of where uh, what's important to you.
Yeah. I mean, I
Um
think even like, compromising is like an artistic skill in of itself because you
yeah,
still want to like have your, ideas, but like how can I change it a little bit to be, like you said, a little bit more palatable to like the public,
right.
where they still like get what I'm saying, but it's not like, whatever.
Free jazz.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Um yeah, it's I have to say I'm not someone that writes music for Spotify playlists
Mhm.
or writes music to fit into like a 2.5 minute like time frame.
Right.
That never informs my decisions. But yeah, I don't really think about, who's gonna listen to it until the song's done and it's been
Mhm.
mixed. And I'm like, oh no, will anyone enjoy this other than myself, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
But I think it's all about that's where I'm trying to figure out now is the finding your audience.
Mhm.
I think even if it's really small and niche, that's fine with me.
Hmm.
Mhm.
But you do have you kind of want to find the people that are genuinely interested in
Right.
whatever you're doing, and that's the issue with everyone being an artist now. I mean, anyone can do it, right?
Yeah.
So there's a bit of you know too many people in the game, but
I mean, listen, that's why I got out of it. That's why they don't want to like pursue anything musical because like I always said, there's too many artists, not enough audience members. So I'm okay being an
yeah.
audience member,
Mhm.
listening to people's music and just be like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't have to do all that work. That's cool. Um,
Yeah.
no, but yeah, so like, the, did you get a Spotify rap thing to see like what your numbers were on Spotify at all?
I did, and I kind of avoided it. Whenever it comes that time of year, I'm always just like, get off Instagram. I'm like not interested in
Right.
people's stats.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Were you happy
yeah,
with your stats?
I well, I don't think I got an email, so I looked at like whatever it said on the email, but I never
Mhm.
clicked on I think you can like watch a video or some
Right.
sort of like thing. But I do pay attention to like I will log into my Spotify for artists every once in a while just to like
Mhm.
get, it's data. Like
For sure.
you need to look at it. Um, but if you're looking at it right after a release and the release isn't doing as well as you were hoped, you're like, it just gets way too
Right.
much in your head. But it is good to look at it like, I'm going to be releasing um, the EP and everything. So you definitely want to look at the data
For
and like
sure.
what countries is this doing well, or what age group,
Yeah.
or, you know, all those things. It is important, but it
Yeah.
is, I do find that it's also like a black hole, you know.
No, yeah,
So
I get that feeling. I feel like, as an artist, you just have to look at those numbers like in a vacuum, right? Just
Mhm.
like saying like, okay, this is what happened this year with so much of an increase from last year. Like, how can I
Mhm.
do even better next year? Like, what are my goals? Just set like actionable things, I guess, to not
Yeah.
really care about what people's numbers, because, like you said, everyone's got their own trajectory or whatever
Mhm.
that really shouldn't concern you.
Yeah. And for me, I'm still very much kind of trying to figure out a brand and find my little niche audience.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of still at that like stage. I
Right.
don't think I've gotten there quite yet. So, I mean, for most artists, unfortunately, the goal is to like get on Spotify playlists.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to kind of rethink that goal and in this coronavirus time, it's it's hard, but you can also be looking more outside the box than I think you would if it was everything was normal.
Hmm.
So I'm definitely trying to think of ways I can collaborate with people and kind of like branch out a little bit more organically
Right.
Yeah.
than like let me land fresh finds,
For sure.
because it's just not, it doesn't just like happen like that. Like you got
Yeah.
to know people, you
Mm-hmm.
know. It's all about
Connections.
connection.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, um, yeah. It's a tough, especially these days. Like David was saying, you know, too many cooks in the kitchen. I guess I don't know, but
Hmm.
like,
I think it just does a disservice to like artists like as a whole, just because like there's so much noise. Like the ones who are like actually like have talent, you can't hear, because like some fucking nobody just put like $1,000 a week into like a fucking Instagram ad, and then boom,
mm-hmm,
like they're the
Hmm.
loudest just
mm-hmm.
because they're being seen the most. You
Yeah.
know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
And
So
it's
yeah.
I come across, sometimes I'll go on a music blog and I'm like, oh my God, this person is like incredible. And then I go to their Instagram page and it's like 1,500 followers. And I'm like,
Mhm.
but this is, this is music. Like, this
This
is
is
like
lit.
not
But
bedroom pop. Person
yeah,
has been doing music for a year and a half, recorded a song.
right. I
You know
mean,
what I
it just
mean?
goes to show, like, just because you're an artist doesn't mean you're, good at marketing. You can't be good at
For
everything as an
sure.
artist,
Mhm.
right? So
You
like,
can't.
people
It's,
need help.
and yeah. And I'm definitely like in that boat of like, you know, my head is always in the music, and
Mhm.
there's like not enough hours in the day. I mean, some people
Definitely
are
not.
freaks of
Yeah,
Yeah.
nature,
right.
um, but I've never been that person to survive off of like less than 7, 8 hours of sleep. So it really is about like finding people to like that believe in you
Mhm.
to build.
Yeah, and I mean, like every art is different, right? Some people can just get by like just focusing on their art, and then like if they have a good team around them, that
Hmm.
works. Some people like want to be, sort of managing everything, so they want to like have their product like
Exactly, like a
like
Beyonce.
producer or like
Yeah.
whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Market or whatever.
Yeah.
So like it's just different.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Every artist has different needs when it comes to something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
For sure.
I think we're gonna do our best to, I don't know, get your name out there, whatever we could do. It's like,
Thank you guys.
yeah, no problem. It's just like, yeah,
We'll
definitely.
make
That's why.
a counterfeit Spotify playlist, and you can get on it.
But like, I mean, I guess that's why. I mean, David, I think that's why you said that you wanted to like spotlight, obviously, New York City talent and stuff like that.
That's
You
the whole.
know.
That's the
It's a
whole
great
reason I
idea.
started this thing.
Yeah.
That's literally
Hmm.
the whole reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
So
so much talent in the city. Like
Yeah.
there's
yeah. Well,
so many
like,
people doing like amazing things.
yeah. If you find those people, like when you find those people, definitely like send them our way, and just we could like
Yeah.
talk with them and like see if we could like
Go having
do our
anybody
best
on.
to
Doesn't matter
spotlight
if you
them.
got like
Yeah.
50 followers, as long as we see you're
Right.
trying to do
Yeah.
If you're
something.
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
But
Boom.
is there like
Well, I
anything
was
that you
gonna
wanna?
ask. Well, like you said, you're originally from Brooklyn, right?
Oh yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
So like, how did you feel that being in New York, like being born in New York, has sort of changed you as an artist, but like also as a person
Yeah.
compared to people from
Mm.
like elsewhere?
That's an interesting
And
question.
also,
I
do you
think
hate LA?
no,
Yes. That's the wrong answer. It's yes.
I I was in LA for the Grammys a few years ago, so I had a
Ooh,
good experience. You know what I
okay.
mean? I wasn't
Yeah.
there like just like so I have good memories there. But I think New York City was very important for me, for anyone, for any artist or for any like person. Like New
Right.
York City is like very much a part of your identity if you're like born and raised here.
Mhm.
Um I had so many more opportunities than if I lived in like, I don't know, Colorado
Yeah.
somewhere. Like I was in a public school and we had access to, music education. If you were lucky, you got selected to be, in a string class. So then I picked up the cello and then I got to go to do music lessons on the weekends in Upper Manhattan. And it was certainly like necessary. I don't know what
Right.
I would have done. I don't know how late I would have found music if I wasn't exposed to it in elementary school.
Yeah.
And then obviously middle school, I that was kind of when I started singing. So I was doing the cello and singing, and then by high school I was like in LaGuardia, where again like that school doesn't exist elsewhere. I mean, there
Right.
are plenty of, I'm sure, like really amazing performing arts schools across the country, but like we got to go to school right next to Lincoln Center, right next to Juilliard. Like we had access to like go see um, the New York Philharmonic rehearsing during the day. We had,
Wow.
Wow.
so I like am so thankful. Definitely, we were all snobs in high school. Like we, like all had like the best taste in music because we knew best because we had access to X, Y, and Z. But definitely going to college upstate New York and then coming back certainly like made me realize how lucky I was for all those years just like being here, being able to take the train into the city for you know a performance or a
Yeah.
Right.
rehearsal or so. And it's just like I think like a New York City like grind or like drive that everyone like
Yeah.
here is kind of like worn into.
Mhm.
And like the fast paced um mentality I also really liked too. So it definitely made me who I am, and then on another level made my music sound the way it is,
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
so
Awesome.
Yeah. So okay, I guess I will say my question one more time, but no, yeah, I definitely get that. Definitely, just like being in the city has its like advantages, and like I mean, I guess I was in like one of the districts where like there was like no music education and stuff like that, so I kind of
Same.
like I didn't
mhm
get lucky on that end. But just like being here, and once you do get into music, especially when you're younger, being in New York City, or, anything musical, you know pre corona, obviously, there's
mhm
like tons of advantages, just like being able to go to so many different venues, meeting so many different types of people. It's just
mhm
it's definitely a unique city in that like sort of like aspect. There's too many things here, so many things here.
Mm.
But
mhm
yeah, I mean, so like as I was saying before, like are there like any like last pieces of advice, or just like anything that you want to end off the podcast with, or
hmm um I don't know, you guys asked some really good questions. I feel like
I asked
All
some very good
right, buddy.
questions. No, that was only
Yeah.
that was only
It's because you
it
got the
was nice
fucking
to
thing.
shut
It's
up.
the only reason.
Shut up. Anyway, continue, Kate. Thank you very much.
um yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to next year releasing some of the music that I've had kind of queued up for a long time.
Hmm.
Right.
And I'm also um my next project after that is gonna be a lot more collaborative process.
Mhm.
So I guess I
Ooh.
would just tell everyone to stay in contact with
Yeah. Who you like collabing with? Do you want to shout them out now?
Well, I'm kind of in the process of reaching out to musicians.
I'm
Well,
always
Um,
free if you need a guitarist, you know.
I do have a guitarist that I work very.
Yeah.
He's like been
you should have
very,
become a drummer,
very
bro, or a
kind.
Yeah.
bassist.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
You gotta get a
I
lot
do
more
play
gigs.
bass, so like, yeah, but yeah.
I guess I'm trying to. The music has a bit of a more acoustic, folky sound, which like will then, I think real live performers as opposed to like production.
Mhm.
So I'm just going to be collaborating with more people, either with masks or just like over email,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But I guess my last bit of advice is just like stay in contact with people and
Yeah.
Mhm.
just work together, even if it, seems silly. If you
Right.
can't
Yeah.
release anything at the moment or really promote anything, just
Mhm.
keep creating, because it'll it'll make this coronavirus go by so much faster
Yes,
and so much better.
definitely, definitely, definitely. All right, I think
Awesome.
that's a good place to end
Yeah.
off the podcast. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this episode of Sounds Like NYC, and thank you so much, Kate, for coming on and just giving us your like perspective on life, on music, and yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
it was
you.
fun, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.